If you've ever wondered why the more you give, the less it seems to matter, this isn't about your personality. It's about how the human brain works. You know the pattern. You show up reliably. You listen attentively. You adjust your plans, your mood, your energy to accommodate others willingly. You are the steady one, the kind one, the one who would never let someone down. Your intentions are pure. You believe that being good means being consistently, selflessly available. Yet, over time, a quiet, unsettling feeling begins to grow. Your care, which felt so full of meaning when you offered it, seems to land with a soft, forgettable thud. Your time, which you gifted so freely, is treated as a given, not a gift. You begin to feel like emotional infrastructure, necessary, relied upon, but utterly invisible. The question forms, heavy and confusing. I showed up, I cared, so why do I feel unseen? This emotional confusion is not a sign of your failure to love well. It is a signal of a fundamental psychological truth you were never taught. Constant, unbounded availability reduces your perceived emotional value. It's not that people are inherently ungrateful or malicious. It's that the human nervous system is wired to adapt to predictability and to orient toward what requires its engagement. Think of your attention and presence as a form of light. When you are always on, shining consistently on everyone and everything, you become the ambient lighting of someone's life. It's comfortable. It's expected. It fades seamlessly into the background of their awareness. They cease to notice the light itself. They simply function within it. Now, consider a single candle lit in a dark room. The flame commands attention. It creates a focal point, a warmth that is consciously felt. Its value is inherent in its contrast to the darkness and in its fragility. It could be shielded or extinguished. Your constant brightness, however well-intentioned, removes that essential contrast. There is no tension, no fluctuation, and thus no conscious recognition. This is the core of the dynamic. Emotional presence without boundaries removes emotional tension. And tension, in a psychological sense, is not inherently negative. It is the space where anticipation, appreciation, and effort reside. It's the gap between desire and fulfillment that makes fulfillment meaningful. When you are perpetually available, always answering the text immediately, always accepting the last-minute request, always smoothing over the awkwardness, always forgiving without a pause, you eliminate that gap. You offer the emotional reward without the other person ever experiencing the gentle, humanizing tension of missing you, of wondering about you, of having to consider your needs or your time. Your reliability becomes a psychological certainty for them, and the brain is a ruthless efficiency expert. It quickly deprioritizes what is certain and guaranteed to focus on what is novel, challenging, or uncertain. This isn't a character flaw in others, it's a metabolic conservation strategy. Why would the mind expend precious emotional and cognitive resources valuing, tracking, and appreciating something that presents no variance, no mystery, and no risk of loss? It adapts. It files your kindness under constants and redirects its attention to the variables. This is why people often don't respect what feels guaranteed. Respect, in its deepest sense, involves a degree of conscious acknowledgement. We are built to respect forces that have their own rhythm, their own integrity, their own boundaries. A mountain, the ocean, a person who says no with calm conviction. The mountain does not apologize for being in the way. It simply is, and we navigate around it. The ocean does not adjust its tides for our convenience. We learn its patterns and approach it with care. When you erase all your own contours to mold perfectly to the shapes of others, you become like water in a cup. Essential, but shaped entirely by the container you're in. The container forgets to appreciate the water. It simply expects it to be there, filling the void. The exhausting result is that being overly nice often leads not to deeper connection, but to being taken for granted. You may find yourself carrying the invisible emotional labor in relationships, remembering birthdays, initiating check-ins, absorbing venting sessions, while your own significant moments pass with a fraction of the reciprocal energy. Your niceness is not met with malice, but with a quiet, systemic devaluation. Your steady flame is used to light others' candles, while no one thinks to shield you from the wind.
The path forward is not about becoming less kind. It is about becoming more real and thus more resonant. It is about reintroducing the gentle, humane tension of your own humanity. It means allowing your light to have a rhythm, sometimes bright and close, sometimes soft and distant. It means replacing the constant hum of availability with the more meaningful music of intentional presence. It means understanding that a no delivered with respect preserves the value of your yes, and that your time, offered selectively, becomes a gift rather than a given. The goal is not to manipulate, but to align your outward behavior with your inner worth. When you begin to treat your own energy, time, and emotional presence as the precious, finite resources they are, you unconsciously teach others to do the same. You shift from being ambient light to being a discernible source of warmth, one that can be seen, felt, valued, and most importantly, missed when you are not there. It is in that space of being missed, however slight, that appreciation is born, and it is in the quiet consistency of your own self-regard that you stop feeling invisible and finally become seen. If you've ever wondered what truly builds a deep and lasting bond with another person, it's time to look past the surface of grand gestures and intense chemistry. The answer lies not in the intensity of the emotion, but in its regulation. The brain doesn't connect deeply with what feels instantly available. It connects with what requires emotional presence. This distinction is the foundation for understanding the difference between fleeting excitement and enduring attraction. It moves us away from manipulative games and toward a more grounded, authentic psychology of human connection. Dopamine versus emotional safety, the two different languages of the brain. Our neurological wiring speaks two distinct languages. The first is the language of dopamine, the neurotransmitter of anticipation, novelty, and reward seeking. This is the system that lights up with a new notification, a surprising compliment, or the thrill of an unpredictable interaction. It's exhilarating, but it's inherently transient and unstable. Relationships built primarily on this dopamine-driven chase feel like a series of spikes, intensely high, followed by inevitable crashes, requiring ever more stimulation to recreate the same feeling. The second, more profound language is that of emotional safety. This is governed by the older, more fundamental parts of our nervous system. It speaks through oxytocin, the bonding hormone, a steady heart rate, and a sense of visceral calm. Emotional safety is not a thrill. It is a profound relief. It's the feeling of being able to exhale fully, of being heard without judgment, of knowing your presence is enough. While dopamine asks, "What's next?" emotional safety whispers, "This is good. Here and now." The critical insight is this: our nervous systems prioritize safety over stimulation. A brain that does not feel safe is a brain in a state of low-grade alert. It cannot relax, it cannot be fully present, and it cannot engage in the vulnerable process of true bonding. Intense, unpredictable behavior, even if flattering at first, ultimately triggers this alert state. It creates fascinating uncertainty, but not the kind that leads to trust. Calm, consistent behavior, on the other hand, signals to another's primal brain, "You are safe with me. Your nervous system can stand down here." This safety is not boring. It is the fertile ground in which everything interesting, vulnerability, humor, creativity, intimacy, can finally grow. The bonding power of earned effort. This brings us to a counterintuitive principle. Effort, when authentic, increases emotional bonding. This has nothing to do with playing hard to get or manufacturing obstacles. It is about the natural, organic effort required to bridge the gap between two separate, complex human beings. Consider the difference between a masterpiece painting viewed in a crowded digital gallery and one you travel to see in a quiet museum. The image may be identical, but the experience and value assigned to it are not. The journey, the focused attention, the deliberate choice to be present, these acts of effort change you, the observer. They create a narrative of investment. You are not a passive consumer, you are an engaged participant. Human connection operates on a similar principle. When understanding, rapport, and intimacy feel earned through mutual presence, patience, and thoughtful engagement, they carry more weight. The brain attributes higher value to what it invests in: time, attention, and yes, appropriate effort. A conversation where you both listen deeply, navigating pauses and complexities, forges a stronger link than a rapid-fire exchange of witty banter. The effort here is not performative labor. It is the respectful and attentive work of truly seeing another person. It communicates, "You are worth my full focus, my patience, my cognitive and emotional resources." That message, when genuine, is profoundly bonding. The pitfall of over-validation and the necessity of contrast. A common, well-intentioned mistake in seeking connection is over-validation, the reflexive, constant reassurance of, "You're amazing, you're perfect, I agree with everything." While rooted in a desire to be supportive, it inadvertently creates an emotional flatline. Just as our visual perception requires contrast between light and shadow to discern shape and depth, our emotional perception requires contrast to discern sincerity and texture. Constant, undifferentiated praise loses its meaning. It becomes a pleasant but meaningless noise, a background hum that the brain learns to filter out. Authentic connection thrives on the gentle, respectful contrast of two separate selves. This means sometimes having a different opinion, a separate interest, or a quiet moment of independent thought. It means your validation, when given, is specific, discerning, and therefore credible. It means your presence has texture. There are moments of warm alignment and moments of calm, differentiated individuality. This dynamic is not conflict, it is contour. It allows the other person to feel they are interacting with a real, three-dimensional person, not a mirror designed solely to reflect their own image back at them. The safety lies in knowing the differences are held within a container of overall respect and care. Nervous system regulation, the unspoken magnetism. Here lies the most powerful concept. Attraction at its deepest level is not about intensity, it's about emotional regulation. In a world of chronic stress, digital overload, and social performance, a regulated nervous system is a rare and magnetic resource. A person who is emotionally regulated is not devoid of feeling. They are the opposite. They have the capacity to feel deeply without being overwhelmed, to be interested without becoming frantic, to be present without projecting neediness. They can sit with silence comfortably. They can absorb a moment of tension without immediately rushing to fix or deflect it. They respond instead of react. This capacity is compelling because it is implicitly generous. When you are regulated, you are not broadcasting your own anxiety, your unmet needs, or your desperate desire for a certain outcome. You are offering a stable, calm space. In that space, another person feels permission to be themselves, to have their own feelings, their own pace, their own thoughts. They are not being pulled into someone else's emotional storm or enlisted to manage someone else's self-esteem. This is profoundly liberating. A calm person feels safe, and in that safety, they become infinitely interesting, because we are all most interesting when we feel free to be authentic. The critical clarification: self-control, not control of others. It is essential to state what this is not. This is not about ignoring people to seem aloof. That is a tactic, and it communicates disinterest, not regulation. This is not manipulation. It is the opposite. Manipulation seeks to orchestrate a specific reaction in another. What we are discussing is the rigorous inner work of managing your own internal state, irrespective of another's behavior. This is purely and simply about self-control and emotional balance. It is about cultivating your own inner stability so that you can show up as a full, present, and non-needy participant in any interaction. Your focus shifts from, "Are they liking me?" to, "Am I being authentic and attentive?" This shift changes everything. It removes the pressure from the other person and transforms the dynamic from an evaluation into a shared exploration. The integration, becoming a source of stability. To integrate this is to practice becoming a source of psychological and emotional stability for yourself first, and consequently for those around you. It looks like listening to understand, not just to reply. It sounds like a measured, thoughtful response where a reactive quip could have been. It feels like the comfortable silence between two people who do not need to fill the space with noise. It is the patience to let a connection unfold at a human pace, not the frantic pace of anxiety. When you achieve this state of inner balance, you offer something the modern world is starved of: a sanctuary of calm attention. You stop chasing connection through more texts, more agreement, more intensity. Instead, you build connection through the quality of your presence. You become someone with whom it is easy to be because you are at ease with yourself. This is the ultimate authority and the deepest form of trust building. It says through your very being, "I am not here to use you to regulate my own emotions. I am here whole and regulated, ready to meet you in the honest, vulnerable, and profoundly interesting space between us." That is not a tactic. It is the foundation of every connection that is truly worth having. For years, you've operated on a quiet, unspoken belief that to be a good person, a kind friend, a devoted partner, a reliable colleague, means to be endlessly available. Your kindness became a reflex, your patience a uniform. You believed that by making yourself easy, agreeable, and constantly present, you were building connection and earning respect. But a slow, quiet exhaustion has set in. You notice it in the hollow feeling after you've given too much, in the subtle resentment when your effort goes unmentioned, in the way your own needs whisper so faintly they're almost inaudible beneath the noise of others' expectations. You begin to sense a dangerous truth. You have been confusing kindness with self-abandonment. Kindness is a conscious choice that flows from a full cup. It is generous, clear-eyed, and freely given without an invisible ledger of expected returns. Self-abandonment is a compulsive reflex that springs from an empty well. It says yes when your spirit screams no. It sacrifices your peace to purchase temporary approval. It silences your truth to maintain a fragile, superficial calm. The first strengthens you. The second slowly erases you. If you recognize yourself in this quiet erosion, understand this. The path back to yourself is not paved with dramatic confrontations or ultimatums. It is built through the subtle, powerful acts of reclamation that begin within. This journey is not about driving anyone else crazy or playing games. It is about one sacred thing: returning to your center. The unspoken language of boundaries. The first and most profound step is relearning that boundaries are not walls. They are the architecture of self-respect. For too long, you may have seen them as selfish, as barriers to connection. In truth, they are the very foundation that makes healthy connection possible. A boundary is simply a clear, internal understanding of what you will and will not hold space for. It is knowing your emotional and energetic limits and honoring them with quiet conviction. When you begin to act from this knowing, politely declining a request that drains you, ending a conversation that turns manipulative, protecting time for your own renewal, a subtle alchemy occurs. You are not being rude. You are being real. And in being real, you perform a critical function. You teach people how to treat you by showing them how you treat yourself. This does not force respect. It invites it naturally. A person with clear, calm boundaries presents a complete self. Interacting with them requires a degree of presence and consideration. It raises the level of engagement, almost unconsciously. The dynamic shifts from one person absorbing the whims of another to two whole persons meeting in a shared space. Respect grows here, not from fear, but from the simple human response to encountering someone who clearly respects themselves. The resetting power of silence. In our world of constant communication, we have forgotten the profound power of purposeful silence. Silence is not the absence of something, it is the presence of a different kind of energy. It is the space where reflection grows, where anxiety settles, and where unspoken assumptions are revealed. When you habitually fill every gap, explaining, reassuring, pursuing, checking in, you carry the entire emotional weight of the relationship. You become the perpetual motion machine, and others learn to be passive recipients. Choosing calm, unanxious silence breaks this cycle. It is not the silent treatment, which is punitive and charged. It is a conscious pause, a return of your energy and attention to your own orbit. This pause does several things. First, it stops the addictive rhythm of overgiving. It allows the natural emotional tension of a relationship, the space where missing, wondering, and appreciating can live, to re-enter the dynamic. Second, it creates a vacuum. In nature, vacuums demand to be filled. In human dynamics, a respectful vacuum often creates space for the other person to step forward, to initiate, to wonder, and, crucially, to value the space you once filled automatically. Your silence isn't a weapon, it's a reset button for the entire emotional circuit. The tone set by your energy. Every relationship has a tone, a felt sense, an emotional climate. We often believe this tone is a mutual creation, but the heavier truth is that it is often set by the person who is most invested in the other's comfort. When you are perpetually accommodating, anxiously attentive, and energetically leaned forward, you set a tone of low-stakes availability. Your energy communicates that you are a fixed point, a certainty. And the human brain, as we know, adapts to certainty and stops prioritizing it. Pulling your energy back, not in anger but in peaceful recentering, is the single most powerful way to change a relationship's tone. This is an internal act. It means withdrawing the constant mental focus you've placed on another person and reinvesting it in your own life, your own projects, your own quiet joys. When you do this, the tone shifts from one of predictable pursuit to one of grounded presence. You're no longer broadcasting a signal of need for validation. You are emitting a signal of self-containment. This is magnetic. It transforms you from a satellite orbiting another's world into a planet with your own gravity. People are drawn to this not out of game playing, but out of a fundamental human attraction to wholeness and calm strength. The dynamic is no longer caretaker and recipient, but two individuals choosing to share their orbits. The return to your center. This entire process, honoring boundaries, embracing silence, pulling back energy, has one ultimate goal: to bring you home to yourself. It is the antidote to the fragmentation of people-pleasing. You are not orchestrating a reaction in someone else. You are conducting a symphony within yourself, gathering the scattered pieces of your attention and intention and bringing them back to the core of your being. When you stop bending your spine into shapes meant to fit others, you stand in your natural posture. When you stop editing your thoughts for public consumption, you hear your own true voice. When you stop proving your worth through endless service, you encountered the simple, unshakable fact of your own inherent worthiness. This is the core message, the heart of it all. You are not trying to drive anyone crazy. You are returning to your center.